All right, let's dive into the earliest, shortest, and, maybe the most mysterious story of Jesus ever written, the Gospel of Mark. It's this super fast-paced, action-packed story, but right underneath the surface, there's a huge puzzle just waiting to be solved. So to really get what makes this ancient text tick, we've got to start by tackling a central mystery that's right at its heart. And this is the million-dollar question, right? The Jesus we meet in Mark's Gospel can do all these incredible things, these amazing feats of power, but he seems totally determined to keep his identity a secret. I mean, it's a pretty strange move for a hero, and it's our biggest clue to understanding the entire book. Now, scholars actually have a name for this whole thing, the Messianic secret. And this isn't just some small detail. It's a huge, deliberate theme woven through the entire story. Jesus is constantly telling people, hey, don't tell anyone about this. But why? Well, the answer isn't really in what he's doing, but in who he was doing it for. We have to understand his audience.
The key to any good mystery is context. And in this case, the context is all about the audience, the specific group of people Mark was writing for almost 2,000 years ago.
So historians are pretty much on the same page about a few things here. Most agree that Mark was the first gospel ever written. There's this idea called Markian priority, which basically means it was kind of the blueprint for Matthew and Luke. It was written for a specific community of early Christians, and, well, they were in a really tough spot. And this right here is the most important clue we have. This community was suffering. A lot. They were probably facing intense pressure, maybe even being killed for what they believed. This fact changes everything. It's the lens we have to look through to understand the rest of the story. Okay, so put yourself in the author's shoes. How do you write a story that gives hope to people who are really, truly suffering? Mark's answer was to show them a very different kind of hero, a secret Messiah.
And here you can just see that tension in plain sight. On one hand, Jesus is performing these incredible acts of power. He's healing people, casting out demons. He even has authority over nature itself. But on the other hand, almost every single time he gives a strict order. Keep this a secret.
And get this, the Greek word Mark uses for these miracles is dunamis. It literally means acts of power. So we're not talking about simple magic tricks here. We're talking about world-changing force. And that just makes the secrecy even more confusing. Why would you show off that kind of power only to immediately tell everyone to keep it quiet?
And it wasn't just the crowds who were left in the dark. Nope. Even Jesus' closest friends, his inner circle, the 12 apostles, they're always shown as being totally confused. They just don't get it. They see all the power, but they completely miss the point of Jesus' real mission. They're expecting some kind of conquering king, and that is not the hero Mark is showing them.
So let's put the pieces together. We've got a suffering audience, a hero who hides his power, and followers who are just completely lost. All these clues, they're all pointing us to the solution. Mark is totally redefining what it means to be a hero and what it means to have hope.
And here it is. This is the answer to the whole mystery. The Jesus in Mark's Gospel isn't a political conqueror. He's the suffering servant. The big secret is that real power, real glory, isn't found by avoiding pain. It's found by going straight through it. He had to keep his identity secret because people would get the wrong idea and think he was there to start a political war, not a spiritual revolution.
Mark gives his audience a kind of roadmap for this new type of hope. It's often called the Paschal mystery. It's a three-step journey. And you gotta notice the order. First comes the suffering, the passion. Then comes death. And only after all that does the resurrection, the victory, happen.
So the passion, that final stretch of suffering and crucifixion, it's not just a sad ending in Mark's Gospel. It's the main event. It's the climax. Mark spends a huge chunk of his story on it, really zeroing in on Jesus' pain and his loneliness. And why? To show his audience that God gets what it's like to suffer. And this is where it all clicks into place. This is the core message. For Mark's audience, watching Jesus suffer wasn't a sign of weakness or failure. It was proof. Proof that their own suffering actually had a purpose, that it wasn't meaningless, that it was part of a divine path that, in the end, leads to redemption and a whole new life. Now, this might sound like a story that's just for a specific time and place, but the message that Mark put together, man, it still hits home today. Let's take a look at how this all comes together for us now. You have to imagine what this felt like for that original community facing all that persecution. This was a radical, totally life-changing message. It was energizing hope. It told them that their struggles weren't a sign that God had abandoned them. Actually, it was the opposite. By enduring, they were literally following in the footsteps of their Messiah.
And Jesus just lays it out, plain and simple, right here in this quote. The path of a follower isn't about ease and power. It's about self-denial and picking up your own cross, your own struggles and hardships. In Mark's gospel, that is the only real path to life.
And that's really where we land. The mystery of the messianic secret. It was solved by understanding that the audience was suffering. The whole message was that redemption is found through suffering. So how can that idea, that we can find purpose in our hardships, still give us that same energizing hope today? It's a question Mark left for his readers, and it's one we can definitely still ask ourselves.